and marched down Eastern Valley Road to Taney Hill, and again destroyed
what
was there.
They also stayed at the Arlington House. So this stuff about the mayor of Birmingham wants to get on the Today Show and say there's no Civil War history in Birmingham is a load of baloney.
Yeah, the Arlington House held them as well, but
then you had Briarfield.
Yeah.
Briarfield, yeah. Briarfield made the, I mean, you have the coke, the peat, and one other ingredient to, smelt and to make the iron. But the Tanner Hill made cannons, the cannons themselves, cannonballs, and other things. But Briarfield also made, rails out of there. Made rail as well as, cannonballs and things like that. But they had one humongous furnace at Briarfield that was, great. The Shelby Ironworks down here really had a big furnace as well. But Tanner Hill had, but through this area, Birmingham was such a had coal, had all the ingredients that needed it for it, and as far as for the manufacturing stuff, that there were so many. So many of them, even on farms, you had the iron being made as well. So, you had so many, even homemade ones being, besides the big ones. So, there's still a lot of them that were in operation, even after the Civil War. But, of course, the Wilson Raiders came by and did the big ones, but there's still a lot of little ones still going. So.
But you think about it, if you take out Taney Hill, Briarfield, Shelby, you take those out, y'all were left without ammo.
Yeah.
There was nothing that they could fight with, and so then it becomes hand to hand, and you're literally face to face with the people, so
we would have to rely on either Atlanta or Chattanooga to supply us.
And how long, thinking about how long that would take, now we just fly it, or we hop in a car and take 3 hours, but you're pulling by horse and buggy. So how long, that would take for something to arrive.
Rail.
Well,
rail, but
and in the telegram to get to whoever, how long is that telegram going to take to notice that you need supplies? It could be 3 months, 4 months. By that point,
what about Jamie Furnace?
Jamie, that was a good
St. Clair County.
Tens Island, the Battle of Tens Island.
I don't think I've heard
Like
the reenactment that we did.
Oh yeah.
Now that well, I don't know how it's gonna go now that they have a noise ordinance on it.
Yeah.
But that was a good reenactment of the Battle of Tens Island.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was a Confederate loss. But it was still good to be able to relive and also they almost set the woods on fire last time I was out there for the reenactment. Somebody must get backfired. So that was an interesting first 5 seconds of the reenactment. Somebody rushing to put out a fire. But it was fun. It was fun. All these ones that I've been to are a blast. I think my favorite so far, if I had to pick two, would be Shiloh and Perryville. Just because of how they did. They did Perryville like in a cornfield. So it was, it's neat to see all that kind of stuff.
Like they did cornfield fried turkey.
Yeah.
what about the cooking?
So we would. Oh, that's moving. I know it's cast iron on the fire.
Most of what they carry for cooking is like cast iron skillets, forks, spoons, plates.
Tea kettle.
Yeah, tea kettle, and then when it goes to food wise, it's like you only have hardtack, salted pork, coffee beans, what else we got? Salt. I'm trying to think.
Whatever we can make.
Yeah, just whatever I guess you could find in a town, or whatever the army could supply to. But knowing that.
Hardtack was mostly common.
Yeah, hardtack was mostly common. Some soldiers, knowing that hardtack is like a very hard like biscuit or like cracker, and break teeth. And basically what some soldiers did is they either dipped it in coffee or something like that. Haversacks usually would be filled up with hardtack because knowing that you have to be rationed it out every week or so for a soldier to stay at least healthy food wise.
Well, one of the things I heard yesterday, and you can confirm this or whatever, but the North had an ultimate, all their railroads were the same, like the length of the tracks and all of that and the cars. So they had an automatic shipment to be able to come in and travel all around the North. Well, for the South, they had Oklahoma or Louisiana may have had a smaller track. Mississippi had a wider one. Alabama had a smaller one than that. So every time shipments were coming in, they'd have to unload and load and put them on the new tracks and take. So a lot of things were getting cut off for the Southerners to have, like the coffee you mentioned. And
pilfering was a big
yeah, and
way
so
of eating.
the same thing where the Union weren't getting the tobacco and all of this stuff. So they were competing for what each person had, but it was, the Union had more access to things, where the Southern just had to keep moving, and it would take so much longer for them to get their stuff. And so they were wound up just eating those nasty cracker things that would actually tear your insides up and cause the dysentery later on because of the cornmeal in them. The cornmeal that was in them was not ground up enough, and if they ate it, it would tear their insides up. You add the yucky water, causes dysentery, and it's a continuous cycle because they never could get over it.
Cycle is disaster.
Yeah.
Disease.
Yeah, but they said something about when Grant and them surrendered that the Southerners said, "Hey, we haven't eaten in like forever," and Grant brought his people over with the food. You know, because the war's over. You know, now we can share. But that's how close they were, marching side by side pretty much. And then when it was all over, they're sharing food. But they wanted, the Union wanted the tobacco and the whatever, and we're wanting the coffee. So they shared, but being that close and fighting, did they stop for days before they would fight again, or was it a continuous thing?
I mean, I noticed that like around Christmas time, they wouldn't do much fighting during the Christmas time, except for, you know, the attack on Fort Fisher was on Christmas, but, you know, later down the road in the war. But that's the one I noticed that they didn't do much fighting, was around the Christmas time. They would try to spend time with one another, and, you know, rest up. Stones River was around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. They were still fighting. So that's how they would come into New Year. Other than that, I didn't hear anything else about holidays that they would stop.
There's only one, I guess, biggest battle that's happened in one day. And then ended all was Antietam. So that's the only maybe 1 day battle I can think of.
Yeah.
But most of the battles were maybe week, 2 weeks, maybe 1 to 2 month span.
And then I don't know, I think it was Gettysburg and 2 others, when they would eventually stop the battle just to bury the dead, and then they would go back to shooting.
What about sleep? Like how?
Sleep, okay, so
You don't get much.
you don't get much sleep.
Yeah, I'm exhausted just listening to all of it, and I'm like, how do these people sleep?
Yeah, I do recall one time that Stones River, I honestly was about to take a nap, and then all of a sudden you hear shots ringing out, because the Yankees were trying something that no one ever planned for Stones River. But sleep-wise, soldiers would be asleep at the nighttime, unless if fighting kept going into the night. I can recall one night raid in Chattanooga. I think it was Battle Waxahachie.
Yeah.
Waxahachie. So it was a night raid of South Carolina regiments going into Joe Hooker's Union Brigades from Kentucky and all that. And so failed miserably. But usually during the nighttime, people would be asleep. Pickets would be on duty. And so they would switch out maybe, I don't know, every hour or so. But yeah, pickets would be on duty to make sure no other enemies or anything's in the area. And yeah. So
I mean, even when I slept at Resaca, we had hay on the ground, wool blankets that we laid on, but I was still wearing, you know, the Civil War shirt like this, and the, you know, suspenders with my wool pants, with my shoes on. So, I mean, imagine trying to sleep with wool that's itching your leg and you're trying to go to sleep. It's hard. Eventually did it, but didn't get enough sleep because by the time they were ready to signal us to get up at 5, I was still tired because it took a while to go to sleep. Thank goodness for the coffee, because I don't know if I would have made it out there.
Yes.
But it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but at the end of the day, I can say that I'm very happy with my decision in going out there, and seeing how it all goes down. And you know, and you kind of build that brotherhood like you would in today's military, and that's how we look at it too, especially the 31st and the rest of those guys. We're all like brothers. We take care of one another. We look after one another. Because my wife was just getting there at Reenactment when I was getting sick. So it was these guys took time out of their day from drilling to make sure I was okay, and was to the ambulance and that was on site while my wife was just pulling in. So they took care of me. So anytime they ever need anything, I'm there. And that's why I was at Fort Harker yesterday, because I told Jason I was going to be there. And anything I can do for him, I'll always do it. You guys have any more questions?
If anybody wants to, I mean, it's not just for men to be out there.
No, there's girls out there. I've seen some girls out there that are in the 5th Georgia Cavalry. They're out there riding horses. I've seen females out there in infantry. I've seen females out there in artillery. Anybody can go out there. We've even seen little boys out there being drummer boys. It's actually kind of cute to see the drummers out there. They got people out there that carry the flags. So they got a wide range of different things. They have civilians that you can dress up as a civilian and be part of the battle too.
If they want to do it, where do they go? How do they get in contact?
How the best way is a lot of the reenactment groups, they have Facebook pages, and you can look them up, whichever one you want to go to. Their 31st is one. They have some. I think there's a couple other regiments from Alabama that has Facebook pages. Just contact them, and then the captain of the group will get in contact with you. Don't worry, I know that this stuff is expensive, but they do have loaner gear for people that are interested, that they can loan you gear for a couple of events. So I think it's like, 4, 5 events that you do, and then you're like voted in as a full member. So I think it's about 4 or 5 that you participate in, then eventually after that you'll get voted in as a full member, and after that point you start trying to get your own gear. And sometimes they even, at some of these reenactments, you don't even have to go and spend a lot of money, because sometimes at these reenactments they have reenacting yard sales that people are selling their old gear. I think they had one at Resaca too.
Yeah, they did.
So, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of, you develop a lot and build a lot of friendship with those people around there. There's a lot of people that I know that can even help women that are interested in being in. I know some good people that do it, as well as, men that want to get into it. I know a lot of sutlers that's willing to help. Just like a reenactment group, you contact them, they'd love to have anybody out there. Because to them, you going out there and wanting to join, they see it as a victory. They got somebody else that's interested in the history. And that's why they have loaner gears. I mean, when I was at Fields Green, I had nothing. They supplied me the hat, the jacket, the shirt, even the pants, and the shoes, and even the musket, and as well as the ammunition and the caps, just so I can suit up and fight for 1 hour. So they look after you. They do. If one guy doesn't have it, they'll reach out to everybody in the group. Hey, you got this, you got this. By the time you get there, they'll have you ready. All you have to do is just get there and be prepared. and just drink a lot of water. And that's where I messed up. I kind of drunk Gatorade and not enough water. But we all learn from our mistakes. But I was thankful that I was able to go out there Sunday and finish the fight, even though I think we lost that day too. But
It was worth it. It was worth it.
it was worth the loss. It was worth getting shot, wounded, and losing at the same
Did
time.
it tell you, like, okay, you're supposed to get shot?
So
or
what they
you're
do?
supposed
So
to
what
get
they
wounded
do?
or something?
If you go out there, it's like a group of guys. I think the 31st is the same way. A group of guys, they'll talk among themselves. Like, hey, I'm gonna fire, 20 shots, and then I'm gonna go down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the reason why people do that too is because the musket, after you firing so many shots, the musket gets real hot. And that's what led to me to just be a casualty at Fiddles Green when I was in Yankee Blue. Because the musket was getting hot. So I was just like, I looked at my captain, I was like, hey, next one, I'm going down. So, it's more or less up to you and talking among your partners that are alongside you. Nobody really tells you when to fall. It's up to you when you want to fall, how far in the battle you want to fall. I usually try to fall a little bit right before the end of the battle because I don't want to be out there roasting for another 45 minutes. But I've seen some actually go down after the first 10 shots, and they'd be down. So it's all up to you. You can play dead, or you can be a wounded. Just let them know, and they'll act like somebody will come over there and they'll pick you up, and you'll hop, and they'll set you down like they did with me at Resaca. So it's great. So if anybody, I don't know, have any of you guys been to a reenactment?
We've been to one.
Been to one? What did you think of it?
It was interesting. I've never seen one before, so I didn't know what.
Which one was it?
I don't remember.
Remember?
It was in Texas, so
Oh, okay.
South Carolina.
Palmetto Ranch.
I think it was Palmetto Ranch.
If it's Texas to Palmetto Ranch.
My husband told me it was South Carolina.
Oh,
Different state.
then it might have been Bronxton Bridge.
Maybe.
Or,
Couldn't be Fort
Aiken.
Sumter. I don't think you can do that one.
or it could be Aiken too.
Could be Aiken, South Carolina. Yeah.
Because I think those are the only two that hold in South Carolina right now, besides the Revolutionary War.
I mean, all the guys were dressed in period costumes, and they had both lines up there, so it was,
Like,
people were dying, people were shot, they died.
When it comes to dying, I like to make it fun. If I get injured, I'm just gonna yell.
Are you a dramatic dyer?
yes.
Yeah, I seen it.
I even had the body cam. I was actually joking with him right before we started. I had the body cam, and he was. There was a guy between me and him, and we had a guy on my left that fell after getting shot. This guy, I caught him on camera. He was just like, "You damn Yankee!" So it was just. I knew he was going to say something like that too. I was just waiting on the right moment.
It's too funny. It's too funny not to do that.
So it's we take it serious, but we have it with fun too. Because we love talking to everyone about the history and sharing our stories, and that's why I always enjoy coming out here for Jenny and the museum out here. I love meeting all of you guys and meeting new people and supporting me in my journeys. And I know, I know you've seen a lot of my videos as well come across, and I look forward. Not a Civil War thing, but Jenny, I am going to Blackstock this October, so I will be sharing that. I'm actually in contact with the president out there, and she's working out, getting me on the field.
James Kendrick's grandfather was in the Battle of Blackstock.
So now I'm going to the Kendricks family in the Revolutionary.
Yes.
So I'm going pretty far back. But I'm doing the Battle of Camden too. So I got a mixture of some Civil War and Revolution coming up. So if you guys want a business card, there's one here, and then you guys can follow me on YouTube. Just subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask everyone to do. That's the only way that you guys can support me and get me to that point where I can be getting money off of YouTube. But other than that, if you guys have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it. But then you guys can see the GoPro when you guys come up, and you can see how it was put on the chest. Imagine all this and a GoPro.
That GoPro is cool.
It's a lot.
Imagine wearing imagine wearing flannels under all thick wool on
Yeah,
very hot
imagine that,
days.
because that just sounds bad.
I remember in high school, we marched and our uniforms were.
That's just what they didn't have summer attire, winter attire, they were out there fighting in whatever they had on them, so, you can't be comfortable.
Going into winter attires, some soldiers had overcoats, or greatcoats, what they call them. They had greatcoats that at least gain like an extra pair of wool on them, because like my jacket, you need like twice the size of what you actually wear, and then you throw it over your jacket. So it's basically how it works for like a greatcoat. But yeah, so in the winter they'd have like scarves or something like that, greatcoats, gloves and all that.
But, do you have anything else?
Going off of like what you said, like women going like back into the war. Some women dress as men to fight in the infantry. I'm not too sure on the reasons why, but just to kind of get away from home, go on adventure, or I guess like stay with their husbands or anything. And then children, they went off to fight. I'm 16, so like you would find a lot of children who are like 16, 17 who sign up as like they're 18 or 19 or 20 or something like that. Just so they could get away from home, get away from like farm work, and some go on adventures, fight and all that, and then
Are just defending their land.
Yeah.
Edwin Jameson, the famous 16-year-old of the 2nd Louisiana. I went and seen his spot out in Milledgeville. He was, like he was saying, Brett's 16. Edwin was 16 when he was killed in Marvin Hill in Virginia. The reason why Edwin joined is he just kind of looked like, hey, I want to go out here and defend my land. And that's why he really joined. There was no reason behind it. He just wanted to do what his dad did and his family did. And now he had a chance to join. He died though at Marvin Hill in 1862, so he wasn't in the war long. But went out there and seen him. So it was a good experience. There's a Union bugle boy that's buried in Milledgeville. After the war, he moved to Milledgeville and started farming. So, also in that same cemetery is a guy named Patrick Kane, who wasn't a military soldier, Confederate or Union, wasn't anybody but a civilian that was killed by Sherman and his troops. So I've seen civilian deaths from the Civil War and studied on that to bring people's attention that you say that the Confederates were this and that. Well, here's some evil stuff that the Union did as well.
I just say everybody had their own reasons.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one thing. Each family, each soldier had their own reason.
And much to what a lot of history is taught, it wasn't about the slavery. It was over taxes.
Yeah.
And so where you hear so much in history about the fact that the South had the slaves and the North didn't like it, the North had slaves as well, but they served in a different capacity, where in the South they were in the fields and they may have not been treated as well in some cases. In most cases they were treated very well. In the North they were in the factories. They were in all these different conditions that were equal to, but it wasn't about the slavery to start off with. It's what was made of it as they were going through the war that it turned into slavery driven, but it was over taxes.
Well, I mean, and then I get into a lot of arguments with people over that whole slavery thing. It kind of gets annoying hearing it every single time. But I quickly end that whole conversation when I say, well, you know who what was the last state to eliminate slavery? And when I tell them the answer, which is New Jersey, was the last state to free slaves. And I told them that last time I checked, that was a Union state. So can you please stop talking about the slavery? It's annoying me. Sometimes I don't even respond to them. I just kill them with kindness. That's what I have to do. I'm not trying, because that's what they're trying to do with us, is trying to see if they can strike that fire to get us to say something that we don't need to say, and that just kind of gives them the energy that they need to do what they're doing with taking down these monuments. And that's why I fight every day, not only with my videos, but I work alongside the SCV in different states, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi. I've done with all of them, and help with everything I can. And it's a great thing. Before we sign, I'm going to be out in Charleston at the cemetery out there doing their memorial service. That's all I have today. I hope that you guys enjoyed the program. Thank you again, Brett, for coming out here and talking to us, and giving us a better understanding of a Confederate soldier and what they wore, and also bringing us here.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you for a great program. And we are running a little bit long, so if y'all don't mind hanging with us when we go to the cemetery, we're going to be out there just a little bit. But if you
wool, and we were in St. Louis, Missouri one time in the summer,